what's the use of two strong legs if you only run away? And what use is the finest voice when you have nothing good to say? What good is strength and muscle if you only push and shove? And what's the use of two good ears when you can't hear those you love? It's not just what you're born with, it's what you choose to bear. And it's not how big your share is, but how much you can share. And it's not the fights you dreamed of, but those you really fought. It's not what you've been given, it's what you do with what you've got. Yeah, it's not just what you're born with, it's what you choose to bear. And it's not how big your share is, but how much you can share. And it's not the fights you dreamed of, but those you really fought. It's not what you've been given, it's what you do with what you've got.
Hello. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that this podcast is taking place on the unceded stolen territories of the Lekwungen-speaking Esquimalt and Songhees peoples. And in our hearts and minds today, we are going to be speaking of territories belonging to the Pacheedaht territories. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. My name is Kimberly, and I will be speaking with Hazelnut, Faye, and Pocket about what's happening in the Walbran. Thank you for your time and willingness to speak with us on Seeds of Revolution. Those of us living in the urban areas of British Columbia on Turtle Island are curious about where you are and how you situate yourselves in relation to the land and people around you. Where is the Walbran Cougar Camp currently located?
So the Walbran Cougar Camp is located in the Upper Walbran Valley, which is about an hour and 20 minutes away from Lake Cochin on logging roads. It was our main camp, but now we're just located all around this area in more of a satellite way of doing it.
Why was the cougar the symbol of your camp?
Well, we have the cougar, not a real cougar, but we have we had a beautiful cougar structure that was built by one of the first blockaders at this blockade. And originally, his intention was just to have this one-day action. He's built these kind of sculptures before out of found wood, and just felt called, I guess, to the cougar as a symbol. Of course, cougars make their home in these woods, but I think just drawn to creating that massive statue. And it kind of the cougars camp first. The cougar was the first thing there, and you're all just around it. And then I'd say had because the RCMP recently just destroyed and burned the cougars to the ground. We still have one piece of it, but we'll rebuild, and it lives still in our hearts. But the cougar, you can take our cougar statue, but you can't take our cougar camp.
The cougar's in your heart.
Yes.
Yeah. It was a beautiful cougar. It stood 15 feet high. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you are dispersed, but not disassociated. You're together. Where you are right now, could you speak to what Indigenous peoples are in the region close to you?
So we're on unceded Pacheedaht territory, and we've been invited there by Elder Bill Jones. We're also neighboring on Pacheedaht territory. It's very, very close by, just a few minutes drive across those boundaries. And of course, those boundaries are always as drawn up by a colonial system as well. So we have connections with Pacheedaht matrix as well, and conversations there. Further afield is the Hawaii people, and they're also involved in the logging, and that's why we also have a lot of conversation with the Hawaii, and you'll hear that a lot of talk of that nation. But the actual land we're on is still Pacheedaht land, right close to that Pacheedaht border.
So how are you navigating the relationships with these Indigenous folks? Do you speak to them, or?
We've been building a relationship with Elder Bill Jones for many years. He has a really interesting life history. He started as a logger, and he decided to stop and to start to save the forests. So we've been having really close bond with him. And the Pacheedaht community is a really small community. There are like not that many members in it. And the band council, as we know, has been established by the colonial rules. So the band council is bought by the industry and receive a lot of benefits by the fact that industry is cutting the trees. Those benefits does not necessarily go to the member of the community. So yeah, Elder Bill John has been suing his band council because they don't respect his right for the land. So we have relationship with him, but people in the Pacheedaht, they cannot necessarily talk to us, otherwise they may have consequences. So it's a complicated dance to manage, but we do have relationship also with the Didida and with some people in the Hawaiiat. So we work really hard on these relationships. We know we're not welcome by everybody on the land, but we take care of the land as if we were invited by everybody, and we just take a good care of, like, giving good choice after.
I think it's as Hazelnut said, it's important to us to respect the land and to respect the people who call it home. And some of those people are willing to speak out publicly, but a lot of those people, when that's your home and this is your family and the stakes are higher. It's easier for us to defend this land because we're not going to lose both material things such as employment or housing and also social ties. So we do have relationships. There are Indigenous peoples from both these lands and from further afield that do come to camp, but it's not right. Like, we don't want to censor them if they're not comfortable taking that role because they put a lot on the line to speak out publicly. There are some people who don't want us there. There are some people who do and aren't comfortable speaking out publicly. And we understand all of that and are grateful for that. And as a settler, what I feel like I can do is take on that burden of being there, knowing that I face less repercussions, both from the legal system and from my own community.
Yeah, wherever possible, we try to share resources. And when we have nexus and donations, we bring them to one of the local matriarchs from the Dididat. And yeah, we do our best to build these relationships as we can, while understanding we are there for a purpose. And it's best if we can work together and to not try to really create any rifts when possible.
Yes, just to move softly and to create the good relationships and to be aware of how you are moving with your own goals in mind, and to move forward with that. So you spoke of Elder Bill Jones. What does he mean to your movement? Like, how does he impact upon the people who he interacts with?
We talked to Bill Jones like quite a bit, and he's a great source of inspiration and of wisdom, and just he's a really great guide. He's not imposing on us anything, but he will guide us through difficult moment and will help us to broaden our perspectives, to get outside of what we would first think. He's a really caring person that really cares about us and that really loves the fact that we're all there together.
Yeah, I think there's a misconception sometimes that Bill is just like a figurehead and that we're just doing our own thing and we're kind of just, it's like, we like a lot of people at Fairy Creek, it got so large, they might not have met him, things like that. But we talk to Elder Bill all the time, and he comes up and visits. He can't be there all the time because of his health, but we are doing this with him and for him. Like, this is at his request. There's a reason that we are where we are, and we're not blockading other areas. Like, we've been not just given permission, but requested to be there. And Elder Bill is a smart guy. Like, he's an incredible storyteller and really has a lot of the wisdom to offer. And he also is like working in the legal system and wants us to do all sorts of different things tactically that he thinks will get done. So he cares about the fight in the forest, and he also cares about how to win the fight. Like, he's there to stand symbolically, but also to really stop the logging. And he's a very brave man. I feel really honored to talk to him, and I've met him and learned from him. And I think he has all his strength to offer us all. And yeah, he's just he's very involved, and it's something he cares about deeply. And anyone who's heard him speak would know that. Yeah.
Yeah, he is an incredible. I mean, to do what he's done takes an enormous amount of courage to openly vocalize something that kind of breaks with the norm and breaks with, what would have been expected from him.
Mm.
He was really willing to speak up and, push for the protection of his land in a way that many people might not have felt like they had the agency or the courage to do that. He is an incredibly wise man with a lot of perspective and experience that I've heard somebody once describe another great thinker by how they choose when to share their wisdom. And I've really found that with Bill is that he doesn't try to overload you with what he tells you. When the time is right and the situation calls for it, his words really speak to, what is needed in that moment.
Mm.
He doesn't try to force himself or his ideas too much on others. But he guides us if we need it.
Mm-hmm. So it sometimes feels as though colonialism is very pervasive throughout everything that we live in and exist in. But how about the colonial roots of resource extraction industries? The colonial roots of that. Can you speak to the politics of how that has impacted on the Canadian history of development in the band councils and in the logging industry?
Yeah, I mean, resource extraction is a colonial project through and through. The terminology is as colonial as it can get. The idea that the land is not something that we belong to or hold relationship with, but is a resource for us to extract and use up. And yeah, even that way of conceiving of the way that we live in relation with land is part and parcel of the colonial mindset. And from the foundations of so-called Canada, like it's a colony. The Europeans came here to take away, to send away, and to with no regard for the peoples here, for the land and for the community. And that's still true today. I mean, we're still cutting down our old growth forests to send to international buyers at a discounted rate that doesn't end up benefiting anyone. Not only are we destroying ecosystems, we're not even supporting our own communities to do so. We're just like making a modern day colony of ourselves. I think it's so unsustainable and antithetical to life, right? Life needs support and the land needs to be held. And I think this is language that you don't use in resource extraction. This isn't the kind of language your forestry minister is going to use. And there's a reason behind that. Because they want to make it into a game of numbers and something that you feel like you can't understand. And every person that's been in the forest can understand what is wrong with resource extraction. Every person who's been in the cut block can see what harm is being done. We don't need statistics and numbers and this and that. Like you can feel that. And specifically with the band councils, with the system that's been set up, it's all in service of a colonial government that wants to extract and wants to take without regard for the peoples here. And when we're on the island, we're talking peoples, it's the human peoples, but also the other forms of life. We're all regarded as peoples here. And so the trees, the cougars, the salamanders, we keep seeing a lot of newts and salamanders, the waterways, the rocks, all of these resources are not there to be extracted, they're there to be lived with. And instead, we have this government set up these systems to enable their choices. The band councils were set up by the government, like not to really empower Indigenous peoples, because that was never the intention of the colonial government. The intention was to facilitate the colonial project. And I won't speak, for every band council. I'm sure there are very incredible individuals who are serving on those councils and who are doing really great work. But the system was set up by these colonial structures. And in the logging industry specifically, like, we look at the past, and Clayquot was this big moment where you had activists and Indigenous communities come together, and they won, right? That's the only permanently protected old growth you have on Big Cougar Island. And we feel like, okay, we learned something about blockading there. We learned about alliance. We learned about how to be in good relation with Indigenous communities. But the logging companies learned something too. And what they learned is that the only group with the legal right to challenge a forestry license is the Indigenous nation whose territory that is. So they spent the last 30 years making sure that those Indigenous nations won't stand against the logging. And they do that by infiltrating band councils. They do that by having and providing benefit to communities. And some of this is beneficial. Like, you have communities that really need economic benefit. And of course, if a group is coming in and offering these things, there's going to be an allegiance there. And never mind that the reason that they're in that position is because of these colonial structures. But it's this divide and conquer technique. And that's, I think, where you see us at this point where we are now, where a lot of Indigenous communities aren't able to, at least through their band council, speak against resource extraction, because it's been a purposeful 30 years of getting them on side and making it difficult to speak out against. And you have this position where settlers really want to work towards reconciliation, but we don't know how to do it. And we don't want to, for good reason, from a good place. You don't want to overstep. You don't want to tell people what to do with their land. That's colonial. But a clear cut is not anti-colonial. And that, I think, is something we just have to remind ourselves. If we've gone to this place where we start feeling like, oh, the anti-colonial thing to do is just to cut down all the forests, that's never the right answer. So they're thinking us into these mind loops. But I think where I root myself is knowing that it's about holding the land and holding each other. And anyone that's telling you that the solution is to lose life, is less life, and to be divided, from each other and to be divided from the land, then that's just a process of colonization continuing.
Yeah, to me, there's this very persistent theme of coercion, and that, it's this consistent pressure on the peoples of this land to, at the very least, get the bare minimum that they can from us. They've been, as Faye was saying, there's been this persistent infiltration of band councils and communities, and this constant pushing of the idea that this is the best they can do for themselves, that they might as well get a little bit of the scraps from what's being cut down because it's better than getting nothing at all. Well, their land's being absolutely torn apart. And often it's not, I believe the forestry company is called Swakeen. It's not, the logging that we're blockading is being done on Pacheedaht territory. And the Swakeen forestry company is 35% owned by the Hawaiian, which are different nations. The logging that's being done on Pacheedaht land isn't to the benefit of Pacheedaht people. There's this use of Hawaiian land guardians and Hawaiian ownership as a means of putting this kind of anti-colonial pressure on blockaders and supporters not to engage in this, when it's really just this kind of use and abuse of this Hawaiian First Nation name to continue to extract another nation's land and territory. To me, this doesn't. It is very manipulative. It's these tricks that it's never meant to empower the nations that they're dealing with. It's meant to use them almost as an excuse so that they can get away with what they really want to do, which is extract as much money as they possibly can from this land. And if they have to give away a few pennies to do that, then so be it. But they still get their win.
So you recently faced a colonial incursion by the RCMP, who burnt down the cougar sculpture and the spiritual cabin that belonged to Elder Bill Jones. I'm wondering, how are you adapting after that?
It was definitely heartbreaking. I watched the camp be torn apart by an excavator and thrown into a fire. And it was a place that we had really grown to love. And it was this beautiful little community that we had really formed with our hearts and our backs and our minds. And it was home to a lot of us. And to watch that get burnt for such a point, like just such a it was devastating to watch for something that is really so needless. But at the same time, it hasn't deterred us at all. You know, at the end of the day, we're going back to camp. We will be there soon. We never lost control of the road. They just took away our home for a little bit. And we know we'll build it again.
I think it's an incredible show of resiliency. Like, the police came, they extracted us from where we established that community for where Bill John asked us to be to protect his spiritual right to the land. So they all removed us the first day and they left. But we went straight back in. We built and we co-constructed something again. They removed us all. It's fine. We built something the other day. And now we have a new camp at 2 from which we can operate new operations to stop off-grid logging. So I think they feel like they killed our spirits, but we're still here. And I feel like we're even stronger than before. We have way more people that come to camp because they saw that place was here. We have way more people donating it for us. So it sparked something.
Yeah. I think the burning of the spiritual cabin really stood out to me. That cabin was built off the road. It wasn't blocking the road, with the intention that it could remain. And that was Bill's specific request. That's where he would stay when he came. He asked someone to sleep in there every night to guard it and being blessed by elders. And it was full of offerings, and it was a place for prayer, and a lot of prayers were said there. And it's just so, there's no need. There is no need at all. And Bill was asking the police to allow him in, to allow him past their barriers to see his spiritual cabin. And they just kept pushing him off and refusing him. And they knew full well they burned it 3 hours before, and they didn't even tell him. And that disrespect and that just unnecessary, they burned our church. That's what they did. And that's heartbreaking. But also, I think that was a spiritual space, but the real spiritual space is the forest. And then they haven't gotten there. They can take our cabin, but the forest is the real temple, and we're not going to let them take that.
Well, it is spiteful. And I'm wondering if this is a sort of a sense of a way to enforce that is a little bit beyond the legal limits. Is there sort of something personal behind it, do you think?
So what happened on that day is that the police pushed us out, so then the industry could destroy it. So then the police could say, oh, we didn't do anything. Once they facilitated for the industry to destroy, and they refused for the land defenders to stay. So it's like they sparked the fire.
Yeah. I'm sure there's, there's officers and there's industry who have personal acrimony, but I think the more upsetting thing is that I think a lot of them don't. A lot of them feel that they just have to do this job, and you see it in them that they're also confused by it. I had officers remove me from a tree sit, and on the whole, they were very nice, but they just seemed confused about why someone would go to these things, and why, almost impressed. Like they're very interested in what we're doing and why we're doing it, and they feel like they have no choice but to just do what they do. And I think what's so powerful about this issue is the majority of British Columbians don't think that we should be logging old growth, and that applies to the RCMP as well. And I've heard that from them. Like the officer that removed me from the tree sit told me that he believed in what I was doing. And I mean, you still have to get to the point to then realize that they don't have to then remove you from the tree sit. But I think it's a really incredible example of how these systems make people think that they're powerless, and that even if they know that they personally feel that they are against this, they're just following these orders. And I just hope that moments like this and the kind of resistance we show helps them think about whether they can live in a world where they're just following orders. Because there's a lot of, there's some definitely interesting conversations we've had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, I keep coming back to two themes of coercion and agency.
Mm.
And I really do think that in a very real way, the police are also being coerced into action. They believe that they have very little agency to choose. They think that if they refuse one order, that it means they lose their job, a job that they're proud of. And I think in a lot of cases, they're rightful to be proud of it. When I was able to talk to the cops during my extraction, many of them spoke about how proud they had been over lives they had saved.
Mm.
And that is such an incredibly rare and honorable position to be in, that you get to save the lives of others. But then their orders also include, the forceful eviction of people who are trying to stop the logging of something that is beautiful and sacred. And, the sacred nature of these things is something that really resonated with the police.
Mm.
They really, they, like Faye was saying, they wanted to understand why we were there. And when I told them that these truly are sacred things, they didn't ask any more questions. It just resonated with them. And I do think that even the police have more agency than they're willing to believe they have, because to question that and challenge that narrative is a very scary thing, because it might upend your whole world. You might realize that you actually did have the opportunity to stand up and say, no, I will not do this. No, I will not tear down this camp. And no, I will not force these people out who are just trying to save something beautiful. They have agency, and they've been tricked into thinking they don't.
Mm.
I do still think that the police abuse their powers. They are doing it. They did it at Fair Creek, and they kept on doing it there as well. Like, the police we have the right to peaceful protest. We have the right to be on those lands. Elder Bill Jones had the right to have a spiritual cabin. They didn't have the right to allow the industry to destroy that. They saw a crime going on, and they still allowed it to happen. The police forced us to be so far away that we couldn't even have any eyes on our friends getting extracted. And they didn't respect anything. Neither did they have any empathy when we asked to have eyes on our friends. Like, it doesn't, like, I don't think that the police is at all collaborating with us when we do that. And yes, maybe one individual was okay, but it's also a game that they're playing with us.
No, I agree. I think the RCMP as a whole, I mean, it's a tool of a colonial state, right? That's their project, and that's what they're doing. But I do think it's worth thinking how we can awaken individuals to that realization, because it is, in the end, made up of individuals, and some of them are, I guess, believing wholeheartedly in those projects, and some of them might not be. And it's an interesting question, but yeah, no, I agree. Like as a entity, they're tasked with doing not even though it doesn't matter what they have the legal right to do or not, because their authority is invalid in my eyes, and I've made that clear to them. But it's confusing, not confusing, but interesting, I think, to have those interactions and to try to understand them. I'm always a know thy enemy type of person. And I think that that's going to help us in the long run to try to understand how to get people out of these thought cycles, because every individual has autonomy. And if we can connect them to that, that's how we can create real revolution.
They did chose to come to us. They were not like drafts or anything. They chose to come and arrest us.
Well, then they were said by, they chose to become police
No,
officers.
they choose to come in first, the injunctions. Like they're offered, do you want to go? And then they choose yes or no. So, like, yes, maybe they care about the trees. And I'm doing like
Scarecrows.
Yeah.
But at the end, they just care about using their powers, and they're happy to abuse of it.
I don't think it's a story about. I think that blockades are about. They get focused in Fairy Creek, and I understand about the police abuse of powers, and they do abuse their powers. They're police officers, of course they do. But I think why we are there is not because the police abuse their powers. We are there because every single day we are losing old growth in this country. We are there because we are destroying the earth, and that we're not going to be able to live like that. We're there because there is so little sacred left to hold on to. And a police brutality and abuse and the authority that police claims to have when they don't are all important conversations. But I think so often when this gets brought up in the news, that's the story. And they want to know, was the officer nice to you? Did they threaten to shoot you? Did they do this? Did they do that? And we can tell you all those stories, but that's not the story I want to tell you. I'm not there at the blockade because I hate the police. Like I don't believe in the authority of the RCMP, but that's not what my blockade is about. My blockade is about those trees. And I think it's part of the conversation. Obviously, it can't not be. But the main conversation is that these forests need our help. They need our defense. They need our community just as much. And we need them just as much. So I think that's...
I don't want to give the impression that I think that their actions are okay. Like, I think that it's worth addressing the fact that the way they conduct themselves and the way they conducted themselves throughout that was kind of pathetic. Like, this isn't what I would expect from a trained professional. This isn't what I would expect from somebody who is undertaking what they consider to be a very important duty. I think that there are absolutely problems in their behavior and their mindset that we need to address. I just equally believe that we all deserve a chance. And if we don't give them that chance, they won't take it. I want them to realize that they can actually choose the right path. It's never too late. I desperately hope that they stop taking the wrong path. But I'm not going to hold... Everyone deserves to be saved. No one deserves to be condemned for their whole lives. And if they choose the right path, I'm not going to say, okay, but we still hate you. Ultimately, I want them to choose the right way.
So is there still an injunction? Is that something that you're still faced with? And is it still like...
Yeah, injunction lasts for a year.
Mhm.
And the injunction was granted 2 months ago. So they still have an injunction. So in theory, industry could ask the police to come and remove us anytime. So we are going to live in that danger zone forever. And even if the injunction is finished, they can renew it. And injunctions are usually renewed quite easily, except at Fairy Creek, where the police abused too much their powers that they didn't got the injunction renewed. But after a week, they got it renewed. So yes, we are going to, as long as we're blockading, there will be an injunction.
Mm. So you expect that to be. How do you expect to increase the pressure? Do you think? Do you think that you can just bring more people out?
I think it's always a question, or partly, I mean, obviously you're impacted by things beyond our control. One of those is the weather, the time of year. Or always, there's a reason that things at Fairy Creek really started going when they did, and part of it was the timing of the injunction, but part of it was the spring. So there's things that are beyond our control, but there's also what we've shown here is whether there's 5 people or 500, we're going to hold that road, right? And that we've shown that we're not going to just be cleared out in a day. They haven't. The enforcement came for 2 days and hasn't been back since. And I think that's because they realized that this was not going to be a quick one and done. And so we're going to rebuild. We're going to rebuild. We've been rebuilding physically. We're also rebuilding socially, and we're building our movement. We're always growing. Every day they leave us, we're growing ideas. We're growing community. We're increasing our strength. We're increasing our planning. And they're not logging. That's the thing. They're not there. And so so far it's been 104 days, and they haven't cut a single tree in those cut blocks. So we're winning.
Good.
We're winning, and we don't plan to lose. So
And we've been doing actions in the city. Like, we have so much time to plan and organize on the blockade. So we've been doing that. We did like almost every week an action in the city or in a cut block to actively stop cutting. So we increase the pressure by just creating a community of resilience and a community that will strive to do actions.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, to me, there are very 2 important ways that we need to challenge the injunction as well. And it really comes down, I say 2, but really it's the legal basis for the injunction must be challenged. Because there has been, in our very recent history in Canada, this kind of overuse of government's power to interfere with different protests. The fact that industry can kind of hire the cops to come in and clear people out so that they can do their work is a little strange. Because as we mentioned before, like, the cops aren't really, they're picking and choosing which laws they're actually enforcing in these instances.
Mm-hmm.
There were crimes committed against Bill Jones and the forest defenders on the day that the police chose to enforce the injunction. And, it's been, many Canadian companies and Canadian workers have been protesting more and more in recent years. And these protests have been almost immediately shut down by back to work orders.
Mm.
I think there is this emerging theme of government intervention to keep the wheels turning and keep things, I don't know the term exactly, but like, keep all operations normal. I think we need to be able to challenge how much the government is actually able to interfere with these types of affairs.
Mm-hmm.
I think to me, that comes through legal battles in the courtrooms, and that comes through political pressure on our leaders to kind of secede these powers.
Mm.
If they continue to use these things, use the power to force us back to work, force the police to evict protesters out of where they're peacefully and legally protesting, we need to figure out how to take that power away from them. Our government should not be able to interfere in these ways.
yeah, I think business as usual under capitalism requires coercive force, and I think that people are getting sick of it. And I think they think that we're just going to go away or we're going to give up, when I really think that the power is on our side and the energy is on our side. And it's much harder to live and try to live business as usual in a violently colonial capitalist state than it is to come and be at the blockade. Like, when people come, they don't leave and they just keep coming back. And you hear it time and again, like, this feels so much easier because I feel like I'm not going crazy. Like, I can live my values. I can be here doing the work, like, and it's so fulfilling. And so I think when we talk about, okay, how are we going to put pressure on them? How are we, like, we have all these techniques, we have all these strategies we're building every day. But I do think that there's only so long you can try to force the people down. And we're creating a space for people to come and realize fully what they're capable of. And that you don't just have to do what you're told. Yeah.
So when people come to camp, what should they expect?
That's a tough one.
You're not a lot of fun. I'll put that out.
Friendship.
Great friends. It's yeah, I mean, well, there's not been active enforcement, and so there since last Tuesday and Wednesday, there was, and the police haven't been back since. We don't know what they're up to, so they could come whenever. They could always come whenever. It's an active injunction. We have a camp location that's available for people to come to. And we also are holding different points on the road. We're controlling road access. In terms of the actual physical kind of infrastructure, they destroyed the infrastructure at Cougar Camp, but we've rebuilt infrastructure in other locations. And we also are rebuilding in spots we've been in before. Not to be cagey, but we like to keep some things in our pocket. But you will be fed, you will be provided for. There will be warm, dry spaces. We have lots of donations, lots of wool blankets hanging around. We do ask people come self-sufficient. Bring your tent, bring your bedroll, bring your warm layers. But we won't let you go cold in the night. And we're gonna see what you can give and ask you to give it. Like, what's your skill? What can you bring? Maybe you are great at building things and maybe you aren't, that's fine. Everyone has something to offer, and however you want to contribute, we want you there and we want to meet you.
Yeah, it's what I appreciate the most about blockading. It's like you find your strength, then you do it and people respect you for that. And you respect yourself even more and you can build up self-confidence. So yeah, just come, even if it's like for 2 or 3 hours. Like, people are sometimes hesitant. They're like, oh, I'm coming just for the weekend. Is it okay? Yes. Like, we that live there are tired during the weekends and we like to come to the city and to like take a little break. So to have people that we know that will come during the weekend is a really great help. Even if person that is there like 3 days every 2 weeks, like just someone that we can trust as well. So yeah, if you can come visit us, bring some supplies, and then you will figure out by yourself how camp life is.
Come help cook, come help clean, come help build, come help talk, strategize, workshop ideas. Let's see what kind of future we can build in the immediate and the long term together.
So Fairy Creek has been a few years in the past now. And what would you say would be the biggest lesson you've learned from Fairy Creek?
Another tough one.
It's a big
Yes.
question, I know.
Well, personally, I was 18 when I went to Fairy Creek. So I think I learned how to be an adult there. I learned how to take responsibility, how to talk in a group. I learned many things like personally. I think that in terms of movement, what we learned was a lot of tactical skills. Like, a lot of tactical skills are hard to learn about. Like, yes, there's like the Earth First manuals, but like, you kind of need to do it. So I feel like we've learned a lot about like what works and what doesn't work in terms of like heart blocks and ways to slow down the police as much as possible. And we also learned that we need to have a community. A lot of people were coming to Fire Creek for the trees and they stayed for the community. So that's what I learned.
Yeah. Myself, I was 23 at the time of Fairy Creek. And I mean, personally, what I gained from that was resolve and also a lot of these kind of hard technical skills that are necessary for blockading, to build and to construct new things, and also to learn what works and what doesn't work. And that does include in a community capacity. There is a tendency for people to come in and think that, oh, it's time, what, I've got big ideas, I'm going to come in and run the show. And also kind of realize that it's a lot more productive to workshop ideas together, to not force what your mentality is on a situation, and instead let that grow and develop with the people you have around you. It's, the technical skills and the social skills are so important. And trust me, you'll see growth. You'll see growth in the social skills, because learning to live and work with other people for no other reason than you truly believe in what you're doing will challenge you. And it will force you out of your comfort zone if you really mean it. If you're really willing to step up, you'll have to grow.
Yeah, and I think it's also like Fairy Creek, of course, gets brought up because it was such a big moment and the kind of most recent really big moment. But the history of blockading, of course, is so much longer and richer. And we have so many people who learned so much 5 years ago. And I mean, that's part of it. If you were there, if you learned things there, come help us out, come put them to use. We want to see you again. But also, like, they blockaded the central Walbran in the early 90s, and we have people involved now who are involved then. Like, this is an ongoing, it's a lifetime. It's people dedicate their lives to this, and the learning never stops. And we're so grateful for that kind of wisdom that people can share. And yeah, hopefully, Pocket always says, hopefully we won't have to do this for our lives. But if we do, we're ready.
I think that's actually a good point, is like, one thing we are really trying to shift in our thinking in this situation isn't just about how to block a road, but how to create real lasting change, that we don't have to keep blocking these roads. How do we create this shift in the way we govern ourselves and the way we talk amongst ourselves and create decisions amongst ourselves, that we don't have to worry about somebody coming in and just ruining the scene for absolutely everybody else. That's what I want to see happen. And that's what I really hope we work towards the best, is how do we actually fix this system? And until then, you know what? I'll put my blockading skills to use as best I can. But the real question that needs to be developed is, how do we win this fight?
Yeah, very good. So as a community, you're not just a contained community at the road. You are a broader community of people who have a bigger network. How can this outside community support you?
We want to see actions. It's great to be in the woods, but there's a parliament here in Victoria. And I feel like people in the city, if they want to organize things to uplift their voices in the woods, that would be awesome. We need action to happen. We need disturbances. Like, we can't keep on business as usual. It's easy to forget that there's a blockade going on in the woods, but not if there's rallies or protests happening once in a while. We also need fundraising. We need people to help us with our different projects. We have a bush bus project right now that is just a warm space where we can organize, that we have a shuffled link. So people in the city that work, if they have a little bit of money left over after, they can send it to us. And they can organize events, like fundraising events. Like, we have one at Camas that is going on the 9th of December. So
Yeah, I think really learning to take initiative
Mm.
is a very important contribution to this whole action. Is that there are, the offices for these companies are in town. The the MPs who draft these bills, like the politicians who are Ravi Parmar, Minister of Forests, he talk to them, bully them, give them a hard time about, and make everybody else know what these people are doing.
Mhm.
You let them know who's responsible for destroying our land,
Mhm.
destroying these forests. Make it as broad. Just do not let up on them because they aren't letting up on us.
Yeah. I mean, and if you want, we want you at camp. If you can come to camp, we want you at camp. Come hang out, come and learn, come and share. And if you have another idea, like what's so empowering about direct action is it's direct, it's up to you. No one can tell you. You don't need anyone's permission, right? Do the action that you want to take. If you want to do something, if you want to speak with us about it, if you want to do it with us, like connect with us over social media, we can try to support you, give you advice. But Hazelnut was saying today, she's like, I love it when someone messages me and it's like, this is what I want to do. This is the layout. I'm going to do it this way. Does that work? And it's awesome because we're trying to blockade a road. So it's very hard to also be organizing all these other things that we love to organize. So we need to have those networks of people. And that's just like we said, if you come in the blockade, we figure out, okay, what's your strength and how can you be useful here? Maybe your strength is in the city and maybe you have something that's useful there. And whether it's Victoria, I know we have people all over the country, all over the world. And sometimes those people end up at camp and people come from far away to be there. But maybe that's not what's possible for you. And but there is, not just maybe, there is something you can do in your own community and in your own fight. And whether that's directly supporting our fight here or holding your own fight for the defense of forests and land where you are, we love that as well. And we're always inspired and wanting to work with people around the world. Like that's the largest of the communities is land defenders world over and people who care about the land world over and are willing to fight for it.
I think people need to stop being hesitant about taking actions. Taking action is so empowering and so gratifying. Like, I wouldn't be spending my time anywhere else than in the forest. And sometimes it's a big step. Like, I had to drop out of school, fly from Montreal, and be here. But like, once you do it, it's not scary. Thinking about doing action and changing your life is scary. But it's amazing to do it and to feel like you're on the good side of history.
So is there anything else that you have to share that you would like to give us words of wisdom about? Why do you need elderberry syrup?
Elderberry syrup is amazing for coughs and colds. And it is cough and cold season. So trying to keep health high. And that's all about in a sick bed.
It is a very real thing that this work has put an enormous toll on us. And part of that is because there are so few of us. And we will continue to keep making it work, but it would certainly help our constitutions to have some people come help us shoulder this burden.
Mm-hmm.
We do get sick.
Yeah, I like that Faye recentered around the old growth. And I think we should close thinking about the old growth trees. Like those magnificent trees that took thousands of years to grow that are actively being cut. Like, cutting of old growth has increased since the NDP government has been in place. Well, they promised that they would stop old growth logging and follow the science that recommend to stop it. So let's all keep in mind those ancient trees.
Yeah, I think I'm so grateful for this opportunity to speak. And I think we all are to speak more on this issue, to speak on the specifics, to share what we feel, what we think. But in the end of the day, I don't think you need to hear from us. I think if you've ever gone for a walk in the forest and felt felt something in your soul, if you've ever sat with your back against the tree and like known a calm, if you're barefoot in the woods and you feel that's a sacred place, then you have the information you need, and we can belabor it, and we can, give the theory and our experience, and all that is useful. And I'm glad that we get the opportunity to do it. But I think every person they know what's right inside of them. And this is a fight that you can feel in your soul. And I feel incredibly lucky to be in a position in my life where I can be part of that fight. And I just hope, I hope that there will always be something to fight for, and people to fight with. So
There is still something beautiful left in this world worth fighting for. There is still something sacred. And I've never met anybody who's walked through those trees and hasn't been immediately able to feel that.
So thank you, Hazelnut, Faye, and Pocket, for being here with me today. I'm so very grateful for your words, and we'll share your words with everybody.
Thanks for having us.
yeah, thank you so much.
Jesus Christ came back today like you threatened he will. Which poor group of people do you think that he would kill? And who would Jesus choose to starve if you gave him the chance? And if there was a genocide, would he take a neutral stance? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? Would he say it's complicated and there's sinners on both sides? Or would he say that some people, they just deserve to die? If Jesus Christ rose from the dead and on a sidewalk slept, would you extend your hand to him or just watch where you stepped? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus hate the gay folk, the queer folk, or the trans? Would he suggest they end their lives according to God's plans? Would Jesus tell a homeless man to get a fucking job, or turn his back on the poor? Would Jesus be a snob? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus build a border wall? Would Jesus drive a tank? Would Jesus be a landlord? Would Jesus run a bank? Would Jesus Christ feel safe in his skin if he came to your town? And would you still believe in him if you found out he was brown? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? Yeah, who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, so close.